Hi, I'm Kobe, a consultant and programmer. I've been developing RPA solutions for 12 years, and I've been a consultant for the last 10. In this video, I will introduce JaRS and show you why I decided to develop it and how it can be used in an integration solution. When I say JaRS, the first thing that pops to mind is a glass container, but that's not quite what I mean. JaRS is an acronym for Job and Resource Scheduler. It's an idea that came from doing various integration projects. My experience is mainly in the UK housing sector, but the software can definitely fit into other areas. JaRS is not a new concept, nor is it the first of its kind, but it does provide another solution to a common problem. The following scenario is one I have come across multiple times. A client wanted an easy-to-use software solution that would replace their convoluted repairs, booking and planning process. I won't bore you with too much details, so in summary, they were using multiple systems, jumping from one app to another, retyping information from the main back office system into Outlook, then entering dates back into the main system, and finally printed paper tickets. This meant a lot of double entry and a lot of scope for human error, especially if information changed in the main system and then the information was not updated in Outlook. It all started with a small proof of concept application. Due to time constraints and a lack of resources, the proof of concept was never rewritten or properly planned, so it became the solution being used in the end, and over time grew into something that's quite difficult to adapt to changes in the business or add new functionality to. So in the last quarter of 2017, I decided to use any free time I had to plan and completely rewrite the software, this time with extensibility and flexibility in mind. Before I go into the demo, let's just have a look at this chart. It shows how information will flow from an external system into JaRS. Information is picked up or sent to JaRS, where it will appear in a works list. A user, usually a planner, will then look for a resource or resources with available time. An appointment representing the work is then dragged and dropped to the appropriate resource. From here, a third-party consumer, like a mobile app or website, can extract the information through the available APIs. Once a third party has finished processing the information, it can then be sent back to JaRS, where it can be processed further or sent back to the original system. For this demo, I created a basic application that represents a back office or external system. I also have JaRS installed on my computer, but the JaRS APIs are hosted on Microsoft's Azure Cloud Platform. This could also easily be any other cloud hosting provider, or it could be hosted locally on iOS. I also created a very basic PowerApp mobile application that uses the APIs exposed by JaRS, but you will see that later on. Let's have a quick look at the back office application. As you can see, it's very basic and takes minimal detail. Usually the external systems will be much more complex. Now let's open JaRS. Depending on how authentication is set up, users can use credentials or it can be hooked up to any other third-party authenticators. The default setup of JaRS will look like this. On the left-hand side, you have the list of jobs or orders being pulled in from the back office system. For this demo, I've set the list to update every 5 seconds. On the right-hand side, bottom half, you have a list of available resources in JaRS. By ticking on the checkboxes, you can enable their calendar slots. In the top half, you have a Date Navigator, where you can navigate between dates. At the top of the application, you have a variety of tabs and buttons to select. Each of these buttons represent a different kind of plugin that can interact with the information displayed on the scheduler. Some are just visual aids and others are behaviors that can determine how the scheduler reacts to information. For the demo, I'm using a test admin user, but later in the video you will see how the top buttons change depending on the role of the logged in user. Let's now start running through the process as presented in the flow diagram earlier in this video. I'll open the boss system and enter a new record. I'm using made-up addresses that require a valid UK postcode. The reason for this is so that the view plugin linked to the location will function properly. After I hit the save button, you will see the record being added to the bottom of the list in the source grid in JaRS. Now as you can see, the records are the same. Before I start booking the appointments, I'll quickly go through the view option plugins that comes as standard with JaRS. There is the default appointment view, where an appointment can be manually assigned a status or a label. There's a custom view that can be used to test values in any of the fields from the external system. There's a line of work view, where colors are applied according to the line of work the job falls under. For example, yellow for electric, blue for plumbing, and so on. There is the location view, where the color is applied according to the postcode. Remember I mentioned about a valid postcode when entering the job in the back office system. And then there is the status view. This indicates what status the job is in. The default is new, so only a light blue color. Note that these colors are all customizable. I will cover how to change the colors in another video. When dragging a job from the source list, you will notice that there are also rules that are set against the resources. For instance, trying to book a carpentry job on an electrician will show a tooltip with information about the restriction on the electrician, where it can only take jobs with a code of EL or ELC or anything that matches electrician. The same goes for trying to book an electrical job on a carpenter, or even a fencing job on a plumber. If I now switch to another view, you will see the appointments will also change color. And then, when trying to book the same job for the same resource for the same day, a tooltip will show that indicates that the job has already been booked for the day. I will now book the rest of the jobs so that we can continue with the demo. I will switch back to the status view so that we can see when the status changes. Now that we have booked the appointments, I'll open the demo app on my phone so that we can process the jobs in the same way an operative or resource would when using the mobile app. When the app loads for the first time, it will download the list of resources from JaRS using the JaRS APIs. For the demo, I decided to use a drop-down with a unique resource code, but in normal scenario, the operatives would enter the unique code themselves. Clicking on the Get Orders button will load the jobs assigned to the operative for that day. You can see that the list of jobs in the mobile app matches the list of jobs in the scheduler. I'm going to start at the top and pick 21 short lane. I can see the details are as it was entered in the back office system. I will add a note and press the Complete button. Next, I'll look at 1 degree. Again, the information is the same as it was entered in the back office system. This time, I will add a note and select the Not Completed button. For the last job, I will decide to go on lunch and select the pause option. Then come back after lunch and realize that there is no access. I'll again enter a note and press the No Access button. Now that all my jobs are finished, I can send the information back to JaRS by pressing the Submit button in the top right corner of the application. You'll notice that as soon as the information reaches JaRS, the appointments change color according to their new statuses. Now if we look back in the JaRS application, you will notice, if I zoom in a little, that there are now small note icons visible on all the appointments. This is just a quick way to show that there were notes added to the jobs linked to those appointments. If I double click on the appointment, you'll see that the notes that were added on the mobile application now also appear in the information linked to the appointment. I will zoom in so it's a bit more visible. You can also see that there are actual times recorded for this appointment. I had to disable one of the rules, where the appointment resizes according to the actual times recorded. As for the demo, the actual times are less than a minute, so the appointments will not really be visible. One of the things that I have not yet mentioned is that the information is synchronized between the clients too. I will demonstrate this by logging in as another user. As I make changes to the appointments, you will notice that the changes are applied in both clients. Here, I will add a note to the appointment. And then when I click on Save, you will see the little note icon appear in the other client. I will also demonstrate this with the mobile app when jobs are changed and sent back from the mobile application. I'll quickly select another operative and fill in some information. As you can see, the note that was added to the appointment in JaRS is also now visible on the mobile application. So we'll add some additional notes and then sync the jobs back to JaRS. Now if you remember earlier, I mentioned that the tabs and the buttons will be different depending on the roles or the role of the logged in user. Here you can see the admin user has more options than the normal test user. The last thing that I'll mention is that the layout of the form can be changed. So if you need to run the client as a dashboard, the panels on the sides of the form can be unpinned, giving you more real estate. And so with that said, this concludes the introduction and small demo of JaRS. Thank you for watching all the way to the end.